When I was a child, I dreamed of adventure, glory, of honor and feats of arms. I think now that these things are shadows, said Taran in The High King, the last book in the Chronicles of Prydain, on which Disney's The Black Cauldron is based ever so loosely. Black Cauldron? Isn't that what happens when I try to cook anything more complicated than rice? More or less. This movie is considered Disney's biggest failure from the old days. Its chaotic history, full of drama between Disney folk, is well described in these two videos. I am going to discuss my past experience with this eclectic brew and compare the books to the movie. Back in the day, getting a video cassette from the rental store was a big deal. Around 1998, my mother and I picked up The Black Cauldron, and everything was fine until the ending, when my mother turned it off in horror and disgust. I didn't really process it or get what was the big deal, so a while later, when my friend got the video, we watched it to the end. I don't really remember how my mother found out. Maybe my friend's parents told her, but I was in a lot of trouble. My memory was not great as a child, and I needed to watch a movie like 10 times for the plot to sink in. So a few years later, and up to a few months ago when I finally rewatched it, I remembered The Black Cauldron as being scary. Much, much scarier than it really is because of my mother's anger. Why did she think it was so scary? I suppose it's because she was not exposed to any horror movies until then. The Soviet Union did not produce them. It went against ideology or something. And my mom was raised on stuff like this.
Дорога, дорога, ведет от порога, идет от порога к мечте голубой.
Пусть мир необъятный, но все же приятно, когда ты шагаешь обратно домой.
In fact, my mom told me the following is the scariest movie she had ever seen in the Soviet Union. See if you can guess what it is. That was the Russian version of Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. The scene where he goes into another world to find the lamp and spirits guide him on. Basically, there were no zombies in the Soviet Union. At least, not in the movies. I think even to this day, my mom won't rewatch The Black Cauldron, even though she's seen scarier commercials for zombie movies since then. Let's check if the famous cauldron scene will scare a novice like my assistant Sockpaw.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sure. Ah! Ah! Wah! What is it, Sockpaw? Is it that scary? No! There's a giant silverfish behind your desk. Don't you ever clean this place?
So while The Black Cauldron may frighten people who are not used to horror, what's truly terrifying about this movie is how bad it is. After reading just the first book, I was able to clarify the main issue with The Black Cauldron, which is that every character taken from the book is several degrees more annoying and pathetic. Consider Fluter Flam, for example, a bard and king who rides on the back of a giant wildcat in the book and eventually gets to leave the mortal realm. In the movie, he's a stumbling moron who can't keep his pants on. The movie lacks characters of wisdom and dignity, like Gwydion, who mentor Taran and help his growth as a person who eventually becomes king. Without doing an in-depth comparison of the books and movie, it's been done before. I want to point out that in the books, Cauldronborn already existed before the cauldron was taken to the marshes of Morva, and they chased and fought the heroes, along with hunters who gain strength when some of their number are killed. These are serious enemies, not the Disney Horn King's drunken rabble. One of my favorite scenes in the book is when Taran and company were trying to drag the cauldron to Gwydion or Dalbin after they realized they couldn't destroy it. The Crocan, squat and blood-darkened, lurched behind him as he stumbled through the brush. It caught on jutting tree limbs, as though eagerly clutching them to itself. Often, at these sudden checks, the companions lost their footing and went sprawling. Then, laboriously, they were obliged to set the Crocan back in its sling once again. Though the weather was chill enough to turn their breath white, their clothing was drenched with sweat and nearly ripped to shreds by the grasping brambles. After such a difficult journey, the companions' dismay at losing the cauldron a bit later is all the more evocative. The movie does no justice to their travails. It looks like they just run around for less than a day, and it's mostly Fluter who stumbles. The tone of the plot is at odds with itself. For the gruesome, by 1985 standards, Cauldronborn scene contrasts ridiculously with the complete nonsense and tomfoolery of the fair folk and the three witches. I mean, what is this? Santa Claus? And what the crap is this? What happened to the eerie, mysterious, and provocative Ordu? What is with the frog abuse? Why does this hairy dog thing, what's his name, Gorky, Grogu, Regurgitate, Gurgi, throw himself in the cauldron when he was just a nuisance up to that point? Stepping back and considering the animation, of which I'm no expert, I guess the first time Disney used CGI was not that bad. Nice green wisps from the cauldron. The animators had a hard time with this one, and I acknowledge their efforts, though I pity the poor artist who had to draw Eilonwy's dumb look of surprise when Gurgi turned out to be alive. Speaking of Eilonwy, I have to point out that she's a trickster. She starts off taking the lead, helping them escape, and giving us the impression that she's more than just another useless Disney princess. But from that point until the end, she does nothing at all. Badly sewing up Fluter's pants doesn't count. She gets more clout in the books, especially the fifth. For example, the scene where Eilonwy holds up her bauble and turns night into day is illuminating. Regarding the new characters Disney introduced into the Black Cauldron, besides the dancer, there is also Creeper. Now, I actually sympathize with Creeper to a small extent, and I'm glad he got away in the end, because he had a horrible boss who didn't know the meaning of constructive criticism. Just ask Sockpaw.
Hey, boss, I kinda sort of accidentally forgot to remove your angry comments from the file before sending it to client. Please don't. Oh no.
Finally, and most importantly, the Chronicles of Prydain is a forceful coming-of-age story that takes Taran from his enthusiastic boyhood and drags him through the depths of his own shortcomings. Nothing from the fourth book, perhaps the most important in Taran's journey, makes it into the movie. I'm glad I decided to make this video and read the series, for I came upon some pearls. To anyone who feels burned out and worried that our imagination is limited and incapable of keeping up with the demands of the trade, Anne Law Clayshaper has the following message. Craftsmanship isn't like water in an earthen pot, to be taken out by the dipperful until it's empty. No, the more drawn out, the more remains. The heart renews itself. Taran learns nothing about himself in the movie. He gives up his sword. Fine. He decides to jump in the cauldron. Just, yeah, somebody had to. In the books, Taran learns about craftsmanship, the honor of hard work, the satisfaction of fighting alongside comrades for a common goal, how to appreciate people he doesn't immediately like, and the joy of coming home. If we had been convinced that Taran learned any of these things when we see them prancing back to Dalbin's farm like idiots, it would be a very different movie.